Once it seemed so natural. Dad went to work, Mum stayed home with the kids. Now it's not that simple. As often as not, both parents have to work just to pay the mortgage. And with that interest rate rise, things just got that little bit tougher. Tougher still if you're trying to find someone to look after the kids. There aren't enough places and decent care's far too expensive. With high demand, high fees and high government subsidies, childcare's become a growth industry. For one man, it's a veritable licence to print money. So why are we taxpayers helping to build his billion-dollar empire? Meet Olivia Kolak. She's only 5 weeks old and she doesn't know it, but she's hot property. Australia's children have become big business, a surefire investment up there with casinos and mining. Kids are commodities in the brave new world of childcare.
Let's have a look, Tanisha. Can you show me what it is?
The government wants women to be in the workforce.
They do, but I don't know how I'm supposed to. I have no option. There is no way I can go back to part-time work now.
Yeah! What's Olivia doing?
Olivia's mum Shannon wants to go back to work. She has a university degree and knows there are lots of jobs available to her. She lives just half an hour from the centre of Sydney, but as one of 250,000 Australian women trapped by lack of childcare.
It was difficult when I found out that I wasn't even allowed to put my name down, that the door was shut before I even got to it basically, that I couldn't even go to the centre and see them. They just said, no, there's no room and you're never going to get a place here.
The Australian childcare system has been described as a shambles. It's said 175,000 children like Olivia can't get a place, and the cost has risen 62% in the last 4 years. Yet, in the midst of this shambles, some people are making a hell of a lot of money. You must be laughing all the way to the bank.
You know, if you do it well, you will make some money.
But between 250, 350 million, am I in the ballpark?
That's what they say.
What's Eddie say?
Oh, well, it's close.
At just 39, Eddie Groves is the king of corporate childcare.
Hey, Dan.
From his Brisbane headquarters, he presides over ABC Learning Centres, the biggest publicly listed childcare company in the world. This former milkman opened his first centre in 1989 and has turned it into a global empire worth $2.5 billion. Why did you target childcare?
When you look at milk, milk was a need industry, and this was another industry that you could do very well, where early childhood education was pretty much needed everywhere.
So childhood education was like milk, a necessity, a staple in life?
It was a necessity, and that's where it started from, yeah.
Eddie's stats are staggering. Soon he'll own 1,000 childcare centres across the country, almost a quarter of the entire private sector, and he keeps acquiring more.
That's why at ABC Learning Centres
the market loves him. His share price is rocketing like a dot-com dream. But Eddie says the kids come first.
That means they will always come out on top.
That is the number one focus, is the child and the family. Always has been, always will be.
So let me get it straight. You're in it for the love of the children, not for the money.
I'm actually in it. The number one is the love of the children and to make sure that we provide the right service for the families.
Well, they can't be at the centre of his business. His shareholders are at the centre of his business. For him, the children have got to be a product of how he actually generates money to return to shareholders.
How many children are in childcare? Lynn Warren heads the National Association of Community-Based Children's Services. She says the rot set into childcare back in 1991 when the government opened the way for private enterprise.
I don't think it's hard to make money out of childcare. You just have to scrimp on the service that you provide. I think that's easy to do, and I think the corporate companies have realised that you can make money and the government will guarantee the income and you can make a return to shareholders, but you don't do that by putting children first.
One of the most strident criticisms of you is that children are simply the commodity and the shareholders are your number one priority.
Absolute insult. No one has ever heard me put the shareholders first, ever.
So how do you go when you stand in front of the shareholders and say, our number one priority is not you, it's the kids?
That's exactly what they want to hear, because they know they're smart enough to understand that if we look after the children and the families, they will be well taken care of, and that's exactly what's taken place. Eddie
Groves and other corporate players have tapped in to a rich seam of taxpayer funding. The government pays a subsidy to families for childcare, and that's passed directly to the centre they choose. As much as 44% of ABC's revenue is derived from these government subsidies. It's profit with a government guarantee. What it doesn't guarantee is they'll build childcare centres where they're most needed.
In inner urban areas now, land is very expensive, so you can't really pay a lot of money for land, put up your building and still make money.
ABC is accused of ensuring profit by targeting only so-called Nappy Valley areas, where land is cheap and young families plentiful.
Well, I mean, that's just incorrect. I mean, we always made a guarantee that we would only build where there's need.
Is this just the company spin you're giving me?
No, absolutely not.
But it sounds like it.
It might sound like it, but I live and breathe this every day. 18 years I've been doing this. I go into the office and spend more hours at this than I've ever done before. This isn't a company spin. This is a guaranteed, this is what we do. And I am personally involved with every one of those decisions.
For such a high-profile player, Eddie Groves is intensely private. He does have kids of his own, but we weren't allowed to meet them, nor his wife, who shares the business. And we weren't permitted to film children inside his ABC centres.
We've probably picked up about another 20 centres in the last few months.
They call him Fast Eddie, because it's the way he does business that has earned ABC such a fearsome reputation. When it comes to competition, Eddie plays hardball. You're a fierce competitor, aren't you?
Absolutely.
Anyone encroaches on your turf and you're onto them?
Not necessarily, but I definitely am a fierce competitor.
You'll protect your turf?
I will protect.
It was Eddie attacking us. It was personal. He didn't like us. We were on the turf.
Lumpy is a real roly-poly bundle of energy.
Early last year, Tara Roberts and her friend Nicole Manning were set to fulfil their dream of opening a childcare centre. Unfortunately for them, they chose a site not too far from one of Eddie Groves.
If we open, they said that they may have to close their doors because there is no need for childcare in this area.
This is coming from ABC Learning, one of the biggest childcare companies in Australia.
That's correct. A 45-place centre like ourselves might affect their financial viability and they may need to close their doors.
Why did you try to shut them down?
The question that's posed to us all the time is, are we building in areas of need? And we go through a rigorous process. All I'm asking is that same standard applies to everybody else. People object against us, we can object against them.
Oh, sparkly top.
Tara and Nicole won their battle, but they spent so much money fighting, they say it will be 15 years before they start to see a profit out of their centre. Those women put their life savings into it. They wanted to have a centre there.
Peter, I put my life savings into this too. Every single cent. Every single cent that I earned ever went into this company. Still does. You know, I'm passionate about it. You know, and so therefore I should be able to compete in the same playing field as everybody else.
Yeah, but you're a giant.
Yeah, but I wasn't.
You have power, you have resources, you have money.
I jumped through every hurdle that everybody else has jumped through and more. So I guarantee you that I'm in exactly the same position as those two women were at one stage.
Are you scared of speaking out against Eddie Groves now?
He is scary in only the fact that he has power, and that's the only reason that I'm scared of Eddie Groves, is the power.
He's so powerful, Eddie even took on the Victorian government. He recently tested Victorian law, which makes his company legally liable for the children in his care. Children like little Todd Kenworthy.
Pulled up at the creche and I could hear a child screaming from the doors as I was coming in. And as soon as he seen me, he was just hysterical.
Todd's mum Emma was called to ABC Learning Centre in Bendigo on February 15 last year. Not even two at the time, Todd couldn't say what had happened, but his arm was obviously hurting.
So I've gone straight to casualty here at the base hospital. And as soon as they've taken a look at it, they've said that it's broken.
But no one from ABC can tell Emma what happened.
Nobody will answer any questions. Nobody knows nothing. Nothing at all. He tripped over and hurt his knee. That was it. A scratch on his knee.
That was their story.
That was their story.
Last Wednesday, the Victorian Supreme Court ruled that ABC Learning was criminally liable for the children in its care. Eddie Groves had argued that responsibility for mishaps like Todd's should rest not with the company, but with the staff member.
The danger with this is, Peter, that if someone wants to be vindictive for some reason and just does something intentionally to a child, how can the company be held responsible for that? And that's what they're saying is the case. And I just can't understand that. So if someone just wanted to walk out of the centre and leave those children, then they want to hold us responsible. I can't cover that off.
No, but as a company, you have a responsibility,
Absolutely.
no matter what, to those parents,
yes, sir.
that I'm entrusting my child to you. No matter what happens, if a staff member walks out or whatever, you are responsible. That's how I would feel as a parent.
Well, and you're right. At the end of the day, we are absolutely responsible. We take incredible measures to make sure that we've covered everything off. Our policies and procedures are second to none. But at the end of the day, some things need to make sure that a staff member is responsible as well as the company.
Liability, competition, profitability. You've really got to stop and remind yourselves, don't you, that we're actually talking about the care of our children here. But in these days of big mortgages and double incomes, is there something that we're forgetting?
We've rushed ahead in the debate to questions of access and affordability when we should take a few steps back.
Anne Mann has analysed the latest long-term research on very young children in care. It shows that those who spend long periods in care under the age of 3 show signs of the potent stress hormone called cortisol in their saliva.
Normally, when a child is at home, they will have higher cortisol in the morning and it will decline in the afternoon, showing that they're relaxed basically and not stressed. In childcare settings, higher numbers of children show higher cortisol in the afternoon. That is, they're feeling stressed.
After a day at childcare?
Yes.
And she says the effects can be long-term. Aggression, depression and antisocial behaviour later in life. Again, it's the corporate childcare giants that are causing most concern.
Those studies, all they do again is put fear into parents. I mean, every parent feels this anxiety with leaving their child, whether it be in childcare or whatever it is. But the reality is parents have to work, you need dual incomes. Why do we want to, as a society, continue to put fear into parents and families that they're doing something wrong with their child?
Many parents will be watching Tuesday's federal budget with an eye on the childcare provisions. But Shannon Kolak is resigned to being a stay-at-home mum, and any thoughts of having a third child have been put on hold.
I don't think I could find places for 3 children anyway, and I don't know if we can afford to support a family of 3 children on 1 income. So at the moment, we're going to stick with 2, I think.
So cost, lack of availability, it's determining the path of your life.
Unfortunately it is, and I hate even admitting that, but at this stage it is.
Shannon's story is repeated in suburbs across Australia. It's clear our childcare system is far from perfect, but Eddie Groves is sick of copping the blame. You have a bullseye painted on you.
I do have a bullseye painted on me, but I don't understand why.
Do you see it as a personal attack?
I do, because I know what we talk about every single day. We might have made mistakes along the way, and that happens. But we have never once sat down and said, we're going to do this or we're going to do that. Every single time we make a decision, it's in the interest of the child and the family.
Does it really rankle you?
It really upsets me. It probably shouldn't, but it does.
Hello, I'm Tom Steinfort. Thanks for watching 60 Minutes Australia. Subscribe to our channel now for brand new stories and exclusive clips every week. And don't miss out on our extra minutes segments and full episodes of 60 Minutes on 9now.com.au, as well as the 9Now app.